All right, good evening, everybody. And I usually start off with, can you hear me? Can you see me? And are my slides running? If I get a thumbs up, a yes, a verbal, a head nod, anything will be helpful.
Yeah, I can
All
see
right,
you and hear
appreciate
you.
that. All right, thank you. All right, so I usually do that with every class, even when we come back from our breaks, because well, technology is not infallible, so it's bound to fail at one point or another. So I always like to start off that way. All right, so welcome to Doctoral Foundations, the very beginning for many of you, if not most of you, for your doctoral journey. This is a condensed course, so just know that this is 8 weeks long. So there's a lot of material that's packed generally up to the very front of the course, and then it starts to mellow out there toward the 6th week and then on. But let me go ahead and start off with the introduction. I normally start off with a poll, but I want to leave that out for the later on. But in this course, you're going to be completing assignments that really serve two purposes, building your immediate doctoral skills and then laying the foundation for your doctoral project, whether that's a traditional dissertation or if you decide to go down the doctoral research project pathway. So, over the next 8 weeks, you're going to engage in extensive reading, extensive writing, and research through various assignments, such as the annotated bibliography, which is what we'll do this week, a literature synthesis, research design, and a mini research proposal. And these tasks, I'll be honest, they are demanding, but each one is intentionally designed to really strengthen your scholarly writing, your critical thinking, your rigor, and your understanding of research methods and ethics. So by approaching them with a focus and aligning them to the topic that well, really matters to you for your endeavors here, you'll not only succeed in this course, but you'll also carry forward the work that directly supports your doctoral journey. So I wanted to give that little upfront introduction, if you will. Um, for myself, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Caldwell. I've been teaching with Westcliff for 3 years now, collectively for just under a decade at the collegiate level. I'm an active duty military member. I'm in the Space Force, currently stationed here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Just PCSed or moved from the Pentagon, so it's nice to be back home, which I'm very excited about. My background is primarily in cyber and cybersecurity, so I've been doing that for 20 plus years. My PhD is also in cybersecurity. Uh, and that's what I normally give up front for my background. For those of you who are interested in learning more about me and my background, you can certainly read that from my bio there at Westcliff, or you can certainly go out to LinkedIn. I also post my accolades out there if you want to get more of a background for me or from me. Okay, how I normally set this up. So if you see me looking around, I have a few screens up here, but I try to maintain visual on the camera that's directly in front of me, so that it's not awkward as I'm talking to students. But if you see me looking around, that's the reason why. So my slide decks are here on screen three, and then I have students here on screen one, and then I have my the chats and everything up on another screen. But here is the lesson that we'll be going over, the content, if you will. And I usually put that up there so that you can see where we're at within the course. Okay, so I do have a note that I do want to put out there. If you have not seen this already in the announcements, there are quite a few announcements. So if you haven't been out there, I would encourage you to go out there and review those announcements. But one of the more prevalent ones here is a note for week 8. So that's our final week. I want to share an important update to our schedule. For week 8, our live session will take place on Monday, February 23rd, instead of Tuesday, our normally scheduled live session. And this change really is to accommodate the student panel discussion, which takes place during our 8th week. And it brings together the entire doctoral foundations cohort. So about 100 students across the entire program. So there's quite a few of you. A new Zoom link has already been posted in the announcements, and it'll be the one that's used for the attendance for that week as well. So please make sure that you mark your calendars for week 8. Again, that's Monday. You can see it here on the screen. Monday, February 23rd is when we will meet. We will meet in a new Zoom room with the other cohort, like I said. So if you do have extenuating circumstances where you are unable to attend that Monday meeting, let's say that you have another class scheduled during that same block, reach out to me so that we can discuss options on a case-by-case basis. Keep in mind that a video recording of the panel discussion will also be made available if it's required, just like any other session. These are all recorded, and they are posted into the GAP forum so that you can go back out there and review these at your leisure. Any questions about week 8? Okay, well, if you do have questions as we go along, feel free to use the chat, or you can post it into the social forum if you want to have that question be presented for the entire class. Some of the students may benefit from your question and its responses. Or if you want to do it more privately, you can certainly do that via email, or you can reach out via the instant messaging there on the GAP platform. Okay, as we get started in the first week, I want to give you a bit of a roadmap of what it is that we're going to be doing and covering during the over the 8 weeks, right? And more specifically for this particular week. We'll begin the course with an introduction and an overview of the dissertation process, since that big picture perspective really helps put your work here into a bit of context. From there, we'll walk through the key resources that you'll need to be successful, like GAP, the library, the Writing Center, before moving into those first major academic tasks, which again for this week would be creating an annotated bibliography. You'll also complete an in-class writing assessment. We'll do that toward the end of the live session here, which is really going to help establish a baseline for your writing skills, and it allows an opportunity to highlight areas that we can continue to develop together. Finally, we'll introduce topics of AI in research or artificial intelligence. This isn't about, of course, replacing your skills, but about understanding the policies, the opportunities, and the limitations around AI so that you can use it more responsibly as you move forward. So the course introduction here, what I normally do is go through with the introductions around the room. However, you can see that there's quite a few in the class, and it would take a considerable amount of time to get through everyone. In fact, we don't have everyone in the class. There are still students missing, which is pretty common for week 1, day 1. That being said, I'd like to move those introductions to the social forum, which you'll find in GAPS. You'll see the announcements, and then underneath that, you'll see another link that says social forum. In there, if you would please, when you have some time, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and, of course, the field of study that you are aiming to go down and investigate for research. And then any other tidbits that you'd like to share about yourself. So again, we're going to pivot that to the social forum and press from there. I should say, while I was still on that slide deck, for the attendance purposes, if you are using another name other than what's been recorded in GAP, I would ask that you change your official name here in the Zoom to match that of GAP. If you have a go by, you're certainly more than welcome to use that. I would ask that you put that in parentheses so that we know what the recorded GAP name is, and then your go by. And that will help with the auto attendance as well, because Zoom will capture your attendance. Okay, now let's go over the course introduction. And you can see here on the slide, it starts with participation. So this is pretty self-explanatory. It's just like any other course you would take online, but you are encouraged, of course, to ask questions, share your insights, and engage in discussions to really help deepen your understanding of what's being talked about, what's being discussed. Breakout rooms are also going to be used throughout the duration of the class here, and they'll be used for small group discussions where it will also require you to be actively involved there as well. Papers, of course, there's papers here in this course, as you can imagine. And I want to bring up, this is a perfect opportunity to bring up the Writing Center support. So the Writing Center is available to help with drafting and revising your papers. And this is particularly important for the week 2 synthesis paper and the week 4 mini research proposal draft. And that link, of course, is not only in the syllabus, but it's also provided in GAP as well. And just so that while I have everyone here, I'm just going to also add that into the chat so that it's available there as well, just so that everyone has it. Okay, so let's break everything out a little bit more, and we'll do this in a little bit more detail based on the weeks. If my slides will move forward. There we go. Okay, so I also want to talk about feedback incorporation. So you are encouraged to actively incorporate feedback from not just the Writing Center, but from your peers and from myself when you start creating those final drafts. So keep that in mind as you're going through the course as well. So there's going to be a bit of iterative work as you go through your papers. Hmm. Okay, I'll do this manually then. All right, so week 1, we have 2 parts that if you review the syllabus, you'll know that there are 2 parts. The first one is the effective searching. This is a module. It's a self-paced learning module that you'll take. And then once you've completed the module, you'll simply upload that final page that shows the completion inside the assignments section for week 1 within GAP. So pretty self-explanatory there. It's not a quiz or anything. It's simply a module that you'll go through. The other piece there is the annotated bibliography, which we'll talk about here momentarily, but that's going to include 10 peer-reviewed articles. This also includes, of course, the in-class writing assignment, which we'll do toward the second or third block, depending on how far along we get. All right, for week 2, we have the synthesis written assignment. This one is 5 to 6 pages. It also includes tracked changes. So those will be turned on for this particular assignment. Those instructions, if you've never done this before, they can be found in the syllabus. But really what track changes do is they turn on, if you are not familiar with this, it turns on the tracking of, yeah, Zeal, go ahead.
I think the slides are not changing, just the week number is getting changed.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, okay. Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I try to keep my slides simple so they're not as distracting. Yeah, yeah, appreciate it. For these the track changes. So if you've never done this before, what it essentially does is it allows a reviewer to come in and see what changes were made and where, and with comments and that sort of thing. It's great for yourself. It's great when you get feedback from the Writing Center, and it's great for when you get feedback from your peers and myself. So they'll be asked to turn those on so that we can start building on those writing skills and further refining them. Okay, for week 3, the research design and methodology, that's that assignment for week 3. As you can see there in the syllabus, there are no page requirements for that particular assignment. The only requirement for it is that all components from the core syllabus have to be addressed. So how you go about doing that is, well, your choice, right? But that will be for the week 3 assignment. For week 4, this is where you were introduced to your first quiz. It's pretty straightforward. It's just, I believe it's 20 or 25 questions, multiple choice, and it covers weeks 1 through 4. Most students do very, very well on that quiz, but it's really just a nice recap of everything we've done up to that point. You'll also have your mini research proposal. So you'll do your the work that you've done prior to, you'll essentially combine those. So it looks like a very large assignment, but in reality, you're combining all the work that you've done. So it'll be about 10 to 12 pages collectively. And that will be submitted to the Writing Center. So you'll upload it into GAP. to prove that you've completed it. But it will also go to the Writing Center for their review and their feedback. So that will be pretty important for that particular week. For week 5, you have your mini proposal final draft. So this will be everything that you've received from feedback from both myself, your peers, and your the Writing Center specialist, whoever it is that you've worked with. You'll get all of that feedback collectively, and then you will draft your final paper, and that will be submitted within Gap. A bonus for week 5, we will also have a presentation along with a Q&A from our Writing Center specialist. So they will join us during that particular week, and they generally do a one-on-one. So we'll go out into the breakout rooms and then answer any questions that you may have specific to your research project. I did say that the Writing Center specialist will be there. We may have other individuals that will join us from either the library, sometimes the dissertation department will join us. So it could be a combination of those teams as well. All right, week 6 is your mini defense. This is actually live, so that entire block will be dedicated to you for your mini defense. That will include a PowerPoint presentation. Of course, there's instructions on this in the syllabus, and we'll talk more about that when we get closer to that requirement. It'll be no more than 7 slides, and it's actually only 5 minutes long. For some of you, that may seem like a really long time. I promise you it's not. But that's so that we can get through everyone within that time block. And it also allows you to really condense everything into what I call the elevator speech. And again, we'll talk about more about that when we get closer to week 6. But this will also be an opportunity for you to develop those skills for public speaking and being able to demonstrate all the work that you've done up until that point. All right, week 7. Week 7 is a reflective paper. So this is 3 to 5 pages, and it really just covers your strengths and your areas for improvement, of course, based on your research skills. This will also include a Gantt chart and a self-reflection component. Again, we'll talk more about those things as we get closer to week 7, but it's a nice moment to kind of step back from your research and really start to reflect on everything that you've done up until that point, and then start to ask yourself honestly, where are your strengths and where are areas that can be improved. And that's really what that particular assignment is all about. And then finally, for week 8, this is where you'll have a final exam. It's very similar to what you've seen in week 4, or you would have seen in week 4. It's 25 questions, again, multiple choice. And this, it operates very similar to the quiz from week 4. This week is also part of the in-class panel discussion, which I just talked about in a previous slide. But this is where we will meet on Monday as opposed to Tuesday, and you'll meet with the doctoral scholars community. Again, a new Zoom link will be provided, and we'll meet on that Monday, not on that Tuesday. Something to keep note with this particular week is we don't run the full 3 hours for this. It usually goes about an hour to an hour and a half. And then that's usually when it concludes, and then you'll just simply be released once that's done. So just know that the date has changed, and it's the same time slot, by the way, but the date has changed, and it's a slightly condensed version for that last week. Let's see here. I think I've got more in there. Oh, yes. So your last assignment will be a reflective video, and that video will be about 3 to 5 minutes. And it really just it goes over your experience in the course up until that point. So I want to emphasize here the importance of thoughtful, well-reasoned responses to your peers, not simply just agreeing or repeating what others have, well, in this case, said in their video. That video will be recorded and it will be uploaded into Gap for the discussion for that particular week. Again, more information about that will come along as we get closer to week 8. From there, you can see this big little note here, and that is to review the syllabus. So I really want to emphasize the importance of thoroughly reviewing the syllabus. As you can see, if you've taken a peek at it already, there is a substantial amount of content, instructions, and other critical details that are laid out in our syllabus. So it can be very easy to overlook something important if you're not paying close enough attention. So the syllabus really is your roadmap through this course. It's going to outline all of your assignments, the deadlines, expectations, the grading rubrics, and anything else that you might need to follow through. So that is the course introduction primary components. I do have a few tidbits or tips for success, I like to call them, as we go through the course. So I'll briefly talk about those. One is the social forum. I use the social forum in all of my classes extensively. I think it's an excellent opportunity for students to talk about things that may not necessarily align directly with the content for that week. So it allows you to bring up something that the class may benefit from. Same thing if I were to present something that might be a bit offhand from the content, I will add it there in the social forum. Check your grades. So I always tell students in all of my classes, of course, posting those grades is my responsibility. But at the end of the day, it is your academic career. So please go out there and review those grades regularly so that you are aware of what they are and get those feedback. That's probably more important, the feedback. Use the writing center. Although there are certain points where the writing center is mandatory to use within the course, you can certainly use the writing center at any point throughout your academic careers here at Westcliff. It's no charge to you. And as a doctoral students, you actually have the option to do this synchronously or asynchronously, meaning you can submit your work for a review, or you can make an appointment and actually talk to someone face to face, whether virtually or if you're on site, and able to be able to go over that content in detail. So again, both options are available to you as doctoral students, and they're both free of charge, and you can do this multiple times. So please take advantage of that. The other piece I would add out there is to reach out with questions. As you're going through the course, there may be times where things might be confusing. Maybe you didn't quite understand something, or whatever the case may be. Please, please, please reach out with questions. I don't want you to go out there and assume something and then come back and realize that you've made an error in judgment. So please reach out with any of those questions. It won't bother me at all if you come out with a lot of email. I'd much rather you ask those questions and get clarification than to post something and now I'm going to have to go through an extensive amount of feedback. So yeah, reach out with questions. As I can see here on screen one, cameras. Please have your cameras turned on. We do this for a number of reasons. Keeping your cameras turned on helps create a more engaging and interactive learning environment. It also fosters a sense of presence and, of course, community, which is absolutely critical for a doctoral program where collaboration and discussion is certainly key. It also helps maintaining that professional demeanor, including having your cameras turned on during live sessions. It also mirrors expectations for a professional and academic setting, and will help you set yourself up for success as you graduate from Westcliff, right? Because you're more likely to be, there's a high caliber that comes with it and expectation. So something to keep in mind. And then finally, with those cameras, just to put that final point on there, is seeing each other also allows for those nonverbal cues, those facial expressions, those gestures, and that can really enhance the communication and the understanding as we go through the discussions, right? So as I'm talking, I'm constantly looking at screen one. I'm looking for the glazed look. I'm looking for the, what did he say? Those will help me go through the content to ensure that my message is clicking, right? It's getting through. That's really what the goal here is. And then finally, what I have in here is the grade forecasting tools, what I've been calling it. But out in the announcement, I get a lot of questions on what is my grade if I do XYZ? What is my grade if I get this or what have you? So I've created a grade forecasting tool. It's simply an Excel document that has a few fancy formulas in there to help calculate this for you. So you can download that at your leisure. And then simply plug in the grades and you can project your grades, etc. And that will allow you to see what your grade would be as you're progressing through the course. Because again, that is probably my number one question that I get. So feel free to download that at your leisure. Any questions about the course introduction so far until we go into AI tools? Okay, it's usually a quiet first session. So I am well aware of that, and I'm very accustomed to it, but this will change as we go along, I'm sure. Yes, I go ahead.
Hello, Professor. So I have a question. So you were mentioning that once we submit the assignment in GAP, will it automatically be gone to the writing center, or is it our responsibility to, to send it to the writing center and submit it back to the GAP?
Yeah, great question. That's actually two very separate processes. GAP is what you'll submit for the course. The Writing Center is completely separate, has nothing to do with your grade. So you'll have to, in during weeks 2, you'll have to submit it in both locations. But the Writing Center is available to you well outside just this course. You can do it at any point in time for any class. Yeah,
All right.
that includes your discussions, right?
Got it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, sure. Anyone else? Okay. Now let's move along and we'll talk about artificial intelligence or AI in academic integrity. So you can see the definition here. It was extracted directly from your student handbook. I'm not going to read this, but what I do want to highlight is what's been bolded here, and that is on the internet, which does fit this definition for plagiarism. So with that being said, as we move forward, I do want to caution you about the risk of relying too heavily on AI tools in academic research and within your writing. So AI can certainly be very helpful, but misuse can lead to things like plagiarism, integrity issues, or even professional consequences. In some workplaces, or those who or will be working in secure environments, AI tools are simply blocked. And this is also the case during exams, your live sessions, where you won't have access to them. So, developing those strong independent research and writing skills is absolutely critical here. AI can also leak sensitive information, as seen in very high industry profile use cases. Coming from a cyber background, we've seen this multiple times. And they can sometimes generate false, hallucinated, or even outdated content, which can be very damaging for your credibility and can hinder your research. And of course, plagiarism is another concern here. So if you use or AI generated content or citations without proper attribution, or if those citations are actually incorrect, which is often the case, you can unintentionally commit misconduct and then, of course, damage your credibility in the process. The bottom line here is treat AI as a supplemental tool, not as a substitute. So your skills in critical thinking, researching, writing, they must remain the foundation because those are what are going to carry you through your doctoral work and your eventual careers. So something to keep in mind. I'm not anti-AI, although people tend to think the professors are. I'm not, especially with a cyber background. We've been using it for, well, decades now. AI is actually not new. It's been around for many, many, many years, but something to think about. So I normally throw in a few of these questions as I go along. It breaks up the monotony of me speaking. It allows the class to kind of discuss what I'm aiming to bring up here. So in here you can see, how do you think AI tools can enhance your doctoral journey while maintaining academic integrity? Can you share any concerns you have about using these tools in your research? So feel free to come off mute, You can throw up a virtual hand, whatever works for you. Yeah, go ahead, Zeal.
So I've observed that sometimes when we try to submit the assignment, it generates a false positive value, whether it is
Mhm.
a authentic work, but it still tagged it as a AI generated work. So, is there any tool or is there any way for us to detect that prior and like um, to eliminate false positives, basically?
The short answer, no. There are so many tools that are out there and they're constantly being developed, but it would almost be impossible to say that there's one tool that can rule them all, so to speak. You may not know this, but there are at least 1,300 tools, AI tools that are created every single day. So it's impossible. What I will say though is, and I'll talk about this when we get to another screen that talks about that scoring, but I look at it from a holistic perspective. I don't just look at an arbitrary score and make my determination. There's a lot that goes into that review, and my due diligence and full transparency. I look at that full report and I read obviously everything in your paper, and I'm looking for far more than those indicators that may have been flagged from the report. I also share that report to you or with you in the event that it's required.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Professor.
Yeah, sure. Anyone
I
else?
think, yeah, sure. I think personally for me, I've always used AI to help with my writing. It helps me improve, the structure or even the flow
Mm.
of the writing. Sometimes help me make the dense, hard paragraphs easier. So I think that way, personally, I feel AI would be useful.
Yeah, I see this a lot with tools like Grammarly. So
Mm-hmm.
those who may not be familiar, Grammarly is another AI tool, or at least that platform has incorporated AI tools within it. So yeah, that's where a lot more, and we'll talk about this here momentarily, but what I call fingerprinting. You want to be cautious about what changes are being made because you don't want to lose your identity in writing as you're making those changes. And that can create a false positive that Zeal was talking about as well. So you want to be very cognizant of your writing style and how much is being warped through those adaptations or recommendations that are being made through those platforms. Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead, Cecilia.
I usually use it just if I need something summarized. If it's something, if I have like too many articles that I'm just looking through, and I just looking for something very specific, then I can leverage AI to really sum up it and save some time.
Yeah, and that can be a huge time saver, right? I wrote a piece on this. It was I'm going to give you a little bit of a story here based on what you just said. When I was going through back in my day, I brought my laptop to one of my classes. And at the time, laptops weren't very common with a lot of folks. And my professor was used to going to the library, going through huge amounts of books. But we had done everything through a digital platform. So I was able to do things much, much faster than if I was to go to the library. And my professor struggled with that concept. So some of you may have already seen this with other professors with the AI score, the AI flagging, and that sort of thing, where they don't get it. I do get it, right? I do understand that technology changes, and we are certainly here to acknowledge that and adapt because I've been there, right? I've been there at the very beginning stages of the tech era, if you will. So yeah, you're in good hands. I'll just leave it at that. Not with Allstate, but with Westcliff. I do love the dad jokes. Yeah, go ahead, Chebun. Cheban.
Yes. Hi, Professor. So I think the use of AI is getting more and more integrated in our daily lives day by day, and I personally have been using it for different aspects, including research, summarization, and so many other things. I also feel it has helped me increase my critical thinking, primarily because the point that Zeal made about false positives. Sometimes AI, let's say ChatGPT, ends up telling you uh, half of the picture and doesn't explain all the caveats that come with it. Sometimes, just because I knew some nuances that ChatGPT was missing, I could help correct it and then have another deeper conversation. But that's the caution that we need to take while using ChatGPT or AI tools for our research, because it heavily depends on what your prompt is, and you don't know what the correct prompt is until you actually end up cross-validating the information. And sometimes I've also used multiple AI tools. Like I've asked the same question to Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, and gotten different answers. So just knowing what you're researching is also important before you just blindly solely rely on AI tools for everything.
Yeah, so skill refinement, right, is really key there. Those analytical skills specifically to be able to go into these tools and determine the context, the nuance, everything that surrounds what you consider the prompt, right? So yeah, I certainly agree. There's a lot of value there if you understand that it is a tool and it's to be used as a tool, not as a replacement of critical thinking or self-thought. We'll do one more and then we'll press here. So Sai, what do you got?
Hi, Professor. So mostly I use AI tools, just like others said, for mostly, summarization purposes of the research. And one use case that I found lately useful is that doing the literature review when writing the papers, right? So as in like not giving everything to the AI, but at least AI helps us to find the best papers or another best journals for me to refer, rather than me going into the digital library resource and doing the Boolean search, getting tens and tens of articles and ending up knowing what is relevant and what is not relevant, right? So kind of like in the literature review is something that I usually use. Yeah.
Yeah, the Boolean search really warms my heart as a cyber expert. Most folks don't even know what that term is, but to be able to use that within the context of AI to help really speed up the process, right? So
Yes.
that's an immeasurable benefit there. I certainly agree. Okay, so moving right along here. So proper uses of AI. There's, as we can see, there's a lot of use cases where AI can be an excellent tool, and how these tools can really support your learning and your research without compromising academic integrity. So when it's used responsibly, AI can be certainly a very powerful asset in your doctoral journey. And we've talked about a few examples already, but first, AI can be great for helping you get a head start on that blank page where you've got that blinking, annoying cursor, and that's all you seem to stare at because you're not sure where to start. But sometimes the hardest part is just knowing where to begin. So AI can help you kind of break through that initial block by generating ideas, giving you a rough starting point. However, it's important to remember that the generated text is not your, or should not be your final product. You are still responsible for shaping and refining the work to reflect your own voice and, of course, your own scholarly rigor. AI can also be useful when you need to explain a concept, at least in a way that makes sense to you. Sometimes academic language can be dense or confusing. Some of you may have already come across this when you're going through research, especially when you're going through those statistical analysis and you're going, what are they talking about? So AI can really help break through some of that too. AI tools can help break down complex ideas into simpler terms, and that allows you to better understand the material that you're trying to digest. But always keep this in mind. You want to be able to verify the information and make sure that it aligns with your research standards. Someone talked about organizing your thoughts. Another great way to do this, right? Whether you're creating an outline, you're identifying key themes, or you're establishing the flow of your paper, these tools can also help you map out your ideas, at least in a coherent way. And this can save you a substantial amount of time, especially when you're working on large research projects like your dissertation. Someone talked about using tools that help you frame certain things. So AI can certainly help when you're stuck on phrasing. So you might know exactly what it is that what you want to say, but you're not quite sure how to get the right words put together. So AI can assist in rewording or rephrasing your thoughts. I would caveat that with you just want to make sure that the final version reflects your original intention and your academic voice. Here's the best tip for success I can give in this regard. As something gets reworded, regardless of the tool that you're using, so agnostic here, ask yourself, would I ever write this? Would I ever say this? If you can honestly say no, then ask yourself the follow-up question. What could I say or what could I write to make it my own words? So I know what it's trying to say. I understand that, but how do I express that? And that's where I get at the fingerprint, right? And that is your unique voice, your tone, your style, your art, all of that goes into your writing. So here's a good way to illustrate this. If I were to ask everyone to write a paper today, pen to paper, and say, give me 3 pages. It can be any topic of your choosing. And then you write your name in the top right-hand corner and submit that paper. And I review it. Let's say a week later, I ask you to write another paper. But this time, I don't ask you to write your name on your paper. I will know exactly who wrote that paper because of that style, that fingerprint, right? It's the reason why we gravitate to certain authors when we're reading novels and books and texts and that sort of thing, because we all have our own unique fingerprint. So that is what AI is very good at picking up on, those nuances in your writing style. So when your writing style starts to shift, AI, it's a pattern. AI is very good at picking up that shift, and it can identify that, well, now wait a minute, we have a different author here. So this is where those false positives can really start to play its part. So again, a bit of caution here. Do not lose what I call your fingerprint. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say with the AI tools. The last thing I'll bring up about this here is the anti-plagiarism checker from Turnitin. So this course, just like every other course here at Westcliff, uses the Turnitin engine as part of the academic integrity review process. So you'll be able to see the plagiarism similarity report score after you submit something. For those of you who've already submitted something here at Westcliff, you're probably already accustomed to this. It is this first portion of the sidebar here. Keep in mind that the plagiarism score, although is available to you, what is not is the AI generated score. That limitation is a function of Turnitin's platform design, not a decision that was made by myself or anyone for that matter at Westcliff. We are, when I say we, the tech department is certainly trying to get through the I'll call them limitations of the Turnitin engine to reveal this to students, but as of right now, it is not available to the students. So while you do not see the AI indicator score, I do. So more importantly, I do not rely on a single score to make any form of determination. I review each Turnitin report in its full entirety. I examine all the flagged content, and I apply my own judgment when evaluating whether AI was used appropriately or improperly. Something to take note here, Westcliff policy does state that any work exceeding 20% AI generated content score simply cannot be accepted. So that policy, of course, exists for a number of good reasons. The goal of this course is to develop your analytical skills and thinking, your reasoning, and your professional judgment, not to assess the quality of some output from an automated system. So in limited cases, as I alluded to earlier, exceptions may be considered based on a review of the content, the structure, and the intent of your work. But those are by exception, not the standard. So I want to be very clear about that. It's also important to understand that AI misuse is not determined by a single score that you see here on the screen. Patterns such as the sudden shift in your writing style, unsupported claims, incorrect or fabricated citations, and content that cannot be explained or defended. All of these things are taken into consideration during that review process. So the expectation in this course is, well, pretty straightforward. The work you submit should reflect your own thinking, your own level of understanding, and your ability to apply the course concepts. If and when AI is used, it must be used responsibly, transparently, and in a way that does not replace your own intellectual work. So that's what I wanted to add there as it relates to the Turnitin engine checker. So let me pause here and see if there are any questions pertaining to the Turnitin engine. Okay, well, let me also add here that if this score, like 69% here, is a fairly high score, generally that means most of what was written was extracted from some AI tool, or there's substantial shifts in your writing style, or what's been flagged has been seen elsewhere. So that's probably where that score came from. There is a full report that gets drafted. I extract that report, of course, review it in its full entirety, but I will actually email that report to you. I know that some professors are a little hesitant to do that because there are a lot of false positives. It tells you that in the report, but I'm more about the transparency, and I'd much rather you be able to understand how these tools work so that you can incorporate them appropriately as you go forward, not just here at Westcliff, but throughout life, really, because these tools are not going away. So that is something that I'll caveat and add to that with that. All right, so if there are no questions with the anti-plagiarism checker, let me go ahead and now move into the content portion for this week. We'll do this for about probably 15 minutes, and then we'll take our first comfort break. All right, so let's now go over the dissertation process, and we're going to do this at a high level. So for those of you who are not quite sure of what the whole dissertation thing is all about, that's what this slide is going to at least cover. So you have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. And it really starts with the getting started piece. So CITI training. So this begins with the Collaborative Institutional Training Initiative, or CITI. And this is used to ensure that you understand the ethical standards and the research protocols required for research. So more about this as we go through, but you'll be required to complete this CITI training so you understand how to conduct research and do so ethically. From there, you'll choose a topic. So selecting a research topic, of course, is pivotal in your dissertation journey. And it should be something that you are genuinely interested in. Oh, I cannot stress this enough. And it has the potential for original contribution to your field. This is a topic that you'll be carrying with you throughout your entire journey. So it really must be something that you are genuinely interested in. Because if there's a moment where you want to give up, if there's a moment where you're hesitant to move forward, your topic is really what's going to help carry you forward. It needs to be something that you are wanting to explore and expand upon. So something to keep in mind. So you are not married to that topic. You can certainly make changes as you go along, but there are certain critical points in your dissertation process where that does become a bit more solidified. So something to keep in mind. But for this course, very flexible. So you can explore a number of different topics, which is really what this course is really designed to do. From there, we have the prospectus approval. So after you have selected your topic, you'll need to develop what we call a prospectus, which is really a brief document that outlines your proposed research. And this has to be approved by the dissertation committee or department. So something to keep in mind there. Moving along, we have the literature review. So this begins with identifying a gap. So in that literature review, you're going to focus on identifying gaps that already exist in research. So these gaps really represent represent opportunities, we'll call them, where your work can make a significant contribution. And that's going to allow you to take that topic and narrow down the scope. So you'll refine your topic based on those gaps that you've identified. A narrower focus is also going to help you or allow for a more in-depth investigation as well. And from there, you'll synthesize. So you'll critically evaluate existing literature. You'll synthesize information to establish the foundation for your research. And this step is really going to help frame your research questions and your objectives as you move forward. And of course, we've got a whole lesson on synthesis as well. Research design. So this starts with your research methods. So choosing the appropriate research methodology, whether it's a qualitative, quantitative, or a mixed methodology that best suits your research questions that you have developed and want to explore. From there, you'll have your proposal. So you'll develop a detailed research proposal, which includes those research questions, your methodology, and a plan in how to obtain your data, and then how will you analyze that data. From there, you'll have your preliminary defense. So before you dive right into your data collection, you'll be required to defend your proposal to a committee. And this is going to ensure that your research plan is sound and it's feasible. So it will need to be approved by that committee and anyone else who is participating in the audience for that. And then once you're approved, you'll move into the data and results piece. And this begins with the IRB application. So you'll submit an application to the IRB or the Institutional Review Board for their approval. So this is going to ensure that your research complies with ethical standards, particularly if it involves human subjects. And this is actually a federal requirement. This is not something that just Westcliff requires. This is a federal requirement. So every institution is required to do this. Once approved, you'll move into conducting your research by collecting that data and then analyzing it using the methods that were clearly spelled out in your proposal. And from there, you'll analyze your data and then discuss those results in the context of your research questions that you developed earlier on, and then draw from that any conclusions based on, well, your findings from that analysis. From there, you have your conclusion and your defense. So this starts with the significance. So you'll highlight the significance or the importance of your findings. This is what I call, for my dissertation students, the so what, right? You've done all this work, so what, right? So how does it contribute to the field? What are the implications for future research or for practice? And then from there, you'll have future research. So you'll discuss areas for future research that has emerged from your study. And these are essentially suggestions that can guide other researchers in the field. Same thing that you would have read about in other published works. And then finally, you'll have your final defense. So this is the culmination of your dissertation process. You'll present and you'll defend your research findings, again, before a committee and the audience. And this is really your opportunity to showcase the rigor and the significance in all of the work that you have put into your dissertation process. And then finally, we have the final steps. And the first part there is formatting. So you want to ensure that your dissertation adheres to the formatting guidelines established by Westcliff. And this step is actually mandatory for final submission. And it actually goes through a very rigorous review. Something to caveat, not to scare you, but just so that you are aware, it does go through multiple reviews. So if an AI score gets triggered at this point, there's going to be a lot of awkward questions. So something to keep in mind. I have seen at not just Westcliff, but other institutions as well, where someone has been spending years through the process. They get up to that final review and their dissertation is denied because it got flagged for plagiarism or it was flagged for AI excessive use, etc. and then you're turned away from the school. So this is why AI is so critical that we talk about it at the very beginning of the process. Please understand what those tools are and how to appropriately use them. You don't want to go through years of all this work just to get to the very last step and then be turned away. So something to keep in mind there. Not the doom and gloom, but want to be very transparent about that. From there, we have publishing. So for those of you who are interested in publishing your work, you can certainly do that, or you can simply submit it to a database like ProQuest, and there are entire processes on how to do that. And if that is something of interest, if you are interested in publishing, that may be something you want to communicate early with your dissertation chair. Some of my students are interested in publishing. I'll be honest, many of them are not. But those that are interested in publishing, there's a lot more rigor that goes into the process because now you have a separate editorial board that you have to get through. So you want to have that idea up front early. Otherwise, you're going to tack on a considerable amount of time at the end of that process to accommodate. From there, presenting. You might present your findings at conferences or seminars, which can really enhance your academic or your professional profile. So just because you have finished your dissertation doesn't mean it stops there, right? And many students will continue on exploring that topic with other colleagues or expand upon that research or simply present it to other forums. And then finally, the piece that everyone looks forward to is graduation, right? Once you've met all those requirements, you'll be ready for graduation and making the completion of your doctoral journey, and then finally earning your prestigious titles. So something to think about here is while this slide certainly outlines the dissertation pathway, Westcliff has actually recently introduced and now offers another pathway, and it's referred to as the doctoral research project. So it's a separate option. And you'll be introduced to that process in week 4 in more detail. But just know that there are actually 2 pathways that you can go down. The dissertation pathway is a more traditional path that you'll see in many institutions. And that research project is more of a hands-on approach. And we'll talk about more of that in week 4. Okay, so with that, are there any questions about the dissertation process?
Hey, Professor, you mentioned about how important it is to pick a subject that you're passionate about, that you want to explore. And then there's always going to be some scope for pivoting at some point. How often do we see scenarios where someone's, let's say, halfway through and they wish to pivot? What are some triggers that we can keep in mind we should look out for, maybe in step 1 or step 2? If we spot those triggers, we can proactively try to pivot earlier, because sooner you pivot, the more effective it would be.
Yeah, that's great to be thinking about that this early in the stage. There are many trigger points, is what you would call them. They're triggers. I like that word. One of them would be the lack of data. So as you're going through your research and you start to realize that there's not a lot of information on this particular subtopic or this narrowed scope topic, so you may need to pivot to something that's been researched a little bit more, especially for a dissertation, because you want to remember the intent behind a dissertation is to really showcase to the world really that you understand what research is and that you understand how to get through research ethically, responsibly, appropriately, etc. So if the topic is too niche, if it's not well explored, you may need to pivot, and that may be a conversation you want to have early with, again, your dissertation committee member. Let me see. Another one would be, as you're going through your research, you may realize that someone has actually already answered your research question. It doesn't happen very often, but that one also comes up, especially with hot topics. So right now, AI is a hot topic. Everyone seems to be researching AI in a number of different ways. So you may soon realize that you are asking literally the same questions that many other researchers are or already have. So that may require you to make a pivot choice there as well, or to maybe go into a different path within that same topic. Again, another discussion for your dissertation committee members. There might be another one where you are simply, you might go down this path and realize that, oh, this is boring, right? If you're going to be honest with yourself, it comes up where you start to realize that it's not as engaging as you might have thought initially. So that you may have to pivot your topic in that regard too, because again, it should be something that you are generally interested in pursuing. Yeah, a lot of triggers or pivot points, but starting to think about those early is a good thing.
Good.
Anyone else?
I have a question, Professor.
Yeah.
So, let's say I'm interested in publishing an article or something that's tangential to the dissertation process, right? So do I still have to go through the same exact process that you laid out, or is it slightly different for that?
Yeah, so this dissertation process is going to point to it. This research process is the same for everyone. Where it starts to deviate is here in publishing. So this is outside, as of right now, outside of Westcliff. Westcliff is in the process of developing its own publishing platform. But in lieu of that, there are other publishers, obviously, you can go with. But that process is outside of Westcliff. So again, it's something that you'd want to communicate very early with your dissertation chair, because you want to start to research what journal are you interested in. Yeah, so yeah, Nicholas put in there's different ways of doing this. Or if there is, even if you have a journal that you're interested in publishing in, they may not have a call for specific topics that align with what you're doing within a certain time frame. So again, there's a lot of work that goes in there. And when you're submitting something to a publisher, you can only do it one at a time, because you're effectively handing over rights each time you do that. And then it goes through an editorial process that takes time. And if you are told, thank you, but no thank you, then they will return that project back to you, and then you can submit it to the next journal, for example. All of that takes time. And this is where I'm saying starting that process early is important, because each journal generally, or each editorial team generally, is going to have their own set of requirements. When I did mine, for example, there were very specific formatting requirements that were separate from the university. So it had to be dual columned. It had to have different margins. All of the artwork, the figures, the tables had to be high quality, and they had to meet certain parameters, and they had to be submitted separately under review. And a lot of requirements is what I'm getting at. So start that process and research early.
Okay. And you also spoke about the formatting, going through the AI checks and all of it at the end. So is there a way we can run those checks at every step, or at an earlier stage, like stage by stage, so we are able to address this earlier rather than, wait for the whole drill and then find out something?
Yes. In fact, you're required to do this at every stage along the way. So the reason why we do the final check toward the end is if something got missed, and that's really what it's for. But some folks will, they may have gotten away with AI along the way, and then AI gets flagged at the end. It's unfortunate, but it does happen. But yeah, these things are meant to be checked iteratively as you go through the entire process. So there shouldn't really be any surprise when you get to that very last stage.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you for that.
Sure. Nicholas, for the question there, for the committee, you will have an opportunity. It's a little early now, but you'll have an opportunity to look at what dissertation committee chairs are available and see which one you might align with. And then you'll have to submit, I think, you have options. You can submit up to 3 or 4 names to the dissertation department, and they will try to align you with the dissertation chair of your choosing. Just keep in mind that not every chair is available to take on new students. So just keep that in mind. I get a lot of student requests for cyber, as you can imagine, or those who are interested in publishing. And I can't obviously take on every single student request. So that's is why you'll submit a number of names, and even if none of them match, the dissertation department will do their very best to align you with the best fit. And there's quite a few on the panel, if you will. So yeah, stay tuned. Okay, with that, I know we're about 4 minutes over, and I apologize that we're going to go ahead and take our first comfort break, and then when we come back, we'll finish up the content portion, and then move right into our first activity. But let's first take our comfort breaks. I'll see everyone in 10 minutes, and you'll see a little countdown on the screen. Yeah, 10 minutes there, Nicholas. All right, welcome back, everybody. It has been 10 minutes, and as usual, can you hear me, see me, and my slides are still running? All right, appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, so we left off talking about the dissertation process. And now I'd like to talk about a little bit about the tools and the resources that are available here at Westcliff. The first one you should already be familiar with, but that is GAP, right? So the Global Academic Portal, better known as GAP. And this really is the central hub for all of your academic needs here at Westcliff. So it's where you're going to access your course materials. You'll submit your assignments there. You'll participate in discussions, and you'll track your progress throughout your entire doctoral journey. So GAP also serves as a communication platform where you also engage with your peers, your instructors, your dissertation committee members. It's also essential that you regularly check GAP in order to stay up to date with any announcements. That includes the social forum. I do post things in there at times as well. Look at deadlines or feedback. So again, this portal is really designed to streamline your learning experience. So you want to make sure that you're familiar with all of its features. From there, we have the library and the Digital Resources Center. So this is really a treasure trove of academic resources that are available to you at any time, anywhere from around the world. Whether you're conducting your literature review, you're searching for those peer-reviewed articles, or you're exploring various databases that you can see here on the slide deck, whether it's JSTOR, ProQuest, Gale, etc. This center has everything that you'll need to support your research. You'll also find open access journals and ebooks that can be pretty instrumental in your studies as well. So you want to be able to familiarize yourself with how to navigate these databases more efficiently, and as they're going to become critical to your developing those research project skills. Yeah, go ahead, Spendan.
Hi, Professor. So I just had a question about resolving differences between GAP and the course syllabus, because we are faced with multiple points where there are differences between what the actual course syllabus says. Case in point, some of the assignments they have percentage scores in the course syllabus, but if you go to GAP, we see that they are marked as ungraded. So how to resolve that? Yeah, that's my.
Yeah, if they are not identical, just call those out and I'll take a look and see what they are. And certainly I will rectify those problems, or at least call them out and say, hey, here's how we're going to proceed. But generally speaking, the syllabus is what's really going to govern how the course is actually officiated. So the syllabus is your authoritative source. Yep. Okay, here we have the Writing Center. So the Writing Center is really your go-to resource for improving your scholarly writing. So whether you're drafting that first annotated bibliography that's due this week, revising your research proposal, or you're polishing your dissertation, The Writing Center provides you that personalized support, and you can get feedback on your writing. You can attend workshops. You can even receive asynchronous reviews of your papers. The mission here really is to build your confidence and your skills as a writer. And so you want to take advantage of those resources to help refine your work before they're ever formally submitted for a grade. And again, it's a free resource and you can use it multiple times. Speaking of courses, they are actually offering another one, a workshop, if you will. I did post that into the announcements for synthesis. So an excellent opportunity. I believe they're doing it for 2 days. But yeah, if you want more information and you are interested in attending that workshop, I would highly encourage that you do that. It's directly related to the dissertation process, so it's something that is highly advisable. The last one there is the Doctoral Affairs website. So this site is really your central resource for programming or the program milestones. They offer templates and guidance on both the dissertation track as well as the doctoral research project pathway. It's a little tongue twister there. But here you're going to find those step-by-step outlines of the entire process. Again, you'll find the official templates there that you can see here on the slide deck, such as the mini proposal. The committee information is also there, and any of the key deadlines throughout the program. All of those things are listed here in a central location, which is fantastic. It's a new addition to the portfolio, if you will. And you can see that up here when you go to the Writing Center, even the doctoral Writing Center is specific to all of you. You can see it there to the right there, Doctoral Affairs. So with that, in addition to all those fantastic resources that are provided by Westcliff, there are several extensive tools and platforms that extend well beyond the reach of Westcliff that really enhances your research capabilities. Many of these may be already familiar to you. Yeah, so Yash, I see the question there in the chat. So if you go into Gap, you'll see in the top right-hand side. And when we go into our breakout rooms, I can guide you through that. Those links are also provided in the syllabus as well. The first one is Google Scholar. So Google Scholar is an excellent tool for finding, well, scholarly articles, theses, books, papers, conference papers, etc., across a wide variety of disciplines. So it's particularly useful for accessing a wide range of literature and finding articles that may not be available through the Westcliff databases. I should caveat that with it is impossible or exceedingly expensive for any institution to offer the full bandwidth of journal accessibility through all the databases that are out there. So I just want to be very transparent about that. The other one is the alumni. So alumni libraries, if you have access to alumni libraries from your previous institutions that you've already graduated from or you've already attended, don't hesitate to use those resources if they are accessible to you. Many universities offer ongoing library access to their alumni, which can be a valuable supplement to your own research. I myself use various institutions I've graduated from. I still access their libraries for certain databases, at least for the ones that they subscribe to that are fairly expensive if I were to do it on my own. You also have public and state libraries, and they often provide access to digital resources, including academic journals and databases through various online portals. And these can be especially helpful if you're seeking additional perspectives or those niche publications. And of course, other university libraries. If you have connections to other universities, such as those through your professional networks, your colleagues, you may be able to access their libraries or at least request specific articles through the interlibrary loan service, which Westcliff does have as well. And this can be a great way to broaden your research scope. The last one on there is the open access journals. So you don't want to overlook the open access journals, which are freely available online, and they cover a wide range of academic fields. So these journals can be a great resource for staying current with the latest research in your area of interest. So these additional resources that you see here on the screen, they can clearly substitute or complement a lot of the tools that are already provided by Westcliff to ensure that you have a nice comprehensive set of materials to support your doctoral research. It's one of those questions I get a lot with when students are digging into their research, like how do I find these articles? How do I research? So aside from what Westcliff provides, there are other options out there as well. So that's what this is all about. Okay, APA, better known as the American Psychological Association. So understanding and applying APA 7th edition is going to be absolutely important for your scholarly writing and throughout your entire doctoral journey. So let's break down the more common things or common points. I call them sticking points. These are the ones that get hit a lot throughout students' writing. So I just want to highlight a few of the more commonly missed things. The first is APA uses the author date citation format system. So this means that when you refer to a source within your text, you'll need to include the author's last name and the year of the publication in parentheses, just like you see it here with Smith, 2026. So this particular format really helps readers quickly identify the sources that you're referencing. Speaking of references, the reference list is also included. It's at the end of your paper on a new page, and you'll include a complete reference list with full details for every source that you cited in your text. So this list is important for maintaining academic integrity, and it allows others to really follow up on your research. So every entry should include the author, the publication year, the title, and the source information. Where did that come from? And that is the thing that gets missed the most. So we need that DOI or we need that URL. We need to know where that source came from. Formatting. So APA has a very specific formatting requirement that you can see here on the screen. Your documents should be in Times New Roman, 12-point font, double space with 1-inch margins all the way around on all sides. So these formatting guidelines, they really help ensure that your work it's professional and it's easy to read. That's really why it was designed that way. So a little tip for success here, for those of you who are using Microsoft Word, back in 2024, Microsoft actually changed the default font to Aptos. So what I would suggest that you do is change it to Times New Roman 12-point font, single spacing, change that to double spacing, and then save that as a template. So every time you open up Word, you know that you have APA set as a standard every time you go to write in there. So a little tip for success there. Headings. APA 7th edition uses a structured heading system to organize your content. So there are 5 levels of headings, each with their own very specific formatting rules. So using these headings correctly will help you make your paper navigatable and your arguments more clear. So those are all listed out in APA as well. 7th edition introduced what's known as the bias-free language. So this is, again, one of those key changes that emphasizes this bias-free language. And that means that writing in a way that is inclusive and respectful of all people. Here you're avoiding terminology or assumptions or stereotypes that are related to gender, race, disability, or any other personal characteristics. So instead of saying she and he, you would say they and them, that sort of thing. So again, bias-free language here. This one doesn't come up very often, but when it does, it's a bit awkward. So I will usually put in a comment in there and say, hey, let's rephrase this or consider wording it this way. Okay, the last thing on there is If you ever need guidance on APA style, I highly recommend that you keep the APA manual handy. And there are a lot of excellent online resources. Of course, the Writing Center has a quick breakdown of all the commonly used rules associated with APA. But a tool that I really gravitate to, and you'll see me put this in a lot of comments, a lot of feedback, is the OWL by Purdue University. And they make this available to everyone. I'm actually going to type this into the chat. Now purdue.edu. Oh, and I did not spell that correctly. Okay, there we go. This is an excellent resource, and it also offers an opportunity. If you have a specific question about, hey, I have this, there's a little bit of nuance in what I'm trying to do here, I'm probably going to direct you to the OWL so that you can determine how to actually format that, that very niche element. All right, and then the last thing I'll add on here is, again, a little tip for success, and you'll see I add a lot of tips for success as we go through the course. But before we wrap up this particular section on APA formatting, I want to point out one of the most important resources that you'll use throughout the doctoral program is the Doctoral Affairs website that I just showed you earlier. But this site is going to provide you with templates, checklist, and detailed explanations of each milestone in your journey. So whether you're on the dissertation track or you're considering the doctoral research project, the Doctoral Affairs page really gives you the structure and the guidance that you're going to need throughout this program. So I encourage you to go out there, become familiar with it, revisit it often, and because it really is your roadmap for the larger picture of your doctoral work. All right, so now getting into your first assignment requirements, the questions that I get a lot about. So as you begin working on your annotated bibliography this week, it's important to understand both, well, what it is and why it's so valuable as part of your research process. So let's first describe, well, what is this thing, right? So in simple terms, an annotated bibliography is a list of your sources, with each entry followed by a brief annotation. That annotation provides a summary, evaluation, and a reflection that allows you to highlight the relevance of your research, which we'll go over here in a moment. So the purpose of creating the annotated bibliography is really, it's twofold. First is it's going to help you organize and critically assess the sources that you are considering for your research. So this process not only makes it easier to find relevant information, but it also ensures that you're using high quality, credible sources, right? Secondly, it serves as a foundation for your research. It's going to help you focus on your sources that contribute the most effectively toward your work. So as you can see here, your annotation includes a few components that I just talked about. The first piece there is the summary, and this is just as it sounds, right? It's the source's content, a summary of that, providing a brief overview of what that source is all about. Secondly, includes an evaluation specifically about the credibility and the relevance of that source toward your topic. So this is where you're assessing the author's qualifications, the accuracy of the information, and then how it relates to your research questions. And then a reflection on how this source will be useful in your research, explaining how does it fit into your overall study and how does it support your thesis, your argument, and that sort of thing. So another tip for success as you look at conducting your annotated bibliography is you want to ensure that you are concise but thorough enough in your annotations. You want to provide enough information to convey the source's value without being overly detailed. You don't want to rewrite the paper, so to speak. So you want to focus specifically on how each source is going to help answer your research question or support your argument. So this focused approach is going to help make your research more efficient and effective as you move forward. Okay, so this other piece here that I have is really talking about how do you go through all these references and manage them in an effective way. There's a lot of ways to do this. But in today's academic environment, managing those references effectively is absolutely critical. And that's where reference management tools come into play. So these tools not only help you organize your sources, but they also help save a tremendous amount of time when it comes to citing them, putting your bibliography together, or your reference page, and creating those annotated bibliographies. So why would you use these type of tools? Well, they keep your research in one organized place, which is invaluable when you're dealing with several research articles. They also save you a lot of time by automatically generating those citations in APA 7th edition format. And many of them offer a lot of other features that help streamline your workflow as you're going through your research. Lastly, as your research begins to evolve, these tools are going to help you effectively retrieve and manage those references. Some of you may already come across where maybe you've read several references and you're thinking to yourself, oh, now I want to write about this one part that this one author had to say, and I can't quite remember who it was, and you're now skimming through all this prior work that you've done. This is where reference management really starts to shine, because you can just simply search for what you're looking for and then just tap a button and have that pull up with your notes, your highlights, and another button allows you to insert the citation and automatically update your reference. So let's talk about a few options. These are not all inclusive, of course, but these are the more popular ones that I have selected to show you. The first one is Zotero. So this one is, of course, recommended for this course. This is the one that's highlighted in your syllabus. It's free, it's open source, it's incredibly versatile, and allows you to save references directly from your browser and then be able to organize a wide range of file types that exist out there. So it integrates seamlessly with Microsoft Word, and that makes citation management pretty straightforward. So it's a very popular tool out there, which is why it's the one that's recommended here. The next one is Ryan. So Ryan is excellent for those of you who may be conducting systematic reviews, where you know that when you leave Westcliff, you intend to continue researching. So this is one of those popular tools that many will use out in the field. It's designed with collaboration in mind, and that allows team members to work together while keeping certain processes blinded from one another. So again, depending on if you know what field you're getting into in the future, and you know that you're going to be working in these type of environments, this might be one you may want to consider starting to use early in that process so that you become very familiar and comfortable with it when you graduate. The next one is Mendeley. So this one offers a unique combination of reference management, and this one includes the social networking features for researchers. So it's great for managing PDFs, and it allows you to annotate and highlight directly in those within the app. So it keeps it all contained, which is quite nice. There are a lot of plugins for this particular software option. It does work seamlessly with Microsoft Word documents, so it makes it pretty much a breeze. This one does have, they do offer a free version with the option to upgrade to premium features. There are student discounts available for this one. And this tool also includes advanced search features that help you filter and organize your work as you're going through it. So another option. The last one I'll highlight is EndNote. So EndNote is a more, I'll call it an advanced option, particularly suited for very large scale projects. So again, if you know that when you graduate, you're going to be working in a research firm or a institute that does a lot of research, EndNote's probably what they're using. So this may be one that may be of interest to you to learn early in that process as you go along. There are a lot of features that are involved with EndNote that, in my opinion, far exceed the other options here. This one's fairly expensive, I'm going to be honest. Even with the student discount, you're still talking several hundreds of dollars. So something to keep in mind. But this is a very, I'll call it user friendly. It's just one or two buttons and it updates your entire paper. So there's a lot of powerful features inside of EndNote. So whether you choose Zotero, Ryan, Mendeley, or EndNote, each tool is going to have its strengths. It's going to have its weaknesses, and selecting the right one really depends on your specific research needs and your level of comfortability with technology. So I encourage you really to go through all of them, explore them, find out which one is best suited for you so that you can make your own informed decision on what works best for you. So that leads us to I believe our last question. And that is, what strategies do you use or plan to use to keep your research and references organized so your work stays accurate and manageable?
I can go first. I would answer from a plan to use standpoint because I haven't used a strategy just yet. Something that comes to my mind is having some tightly defined categories. So, for instance, if I'm researching a certain topic, I would categorize different articles and journals um, for the ones that are supporting a certain topic or certain hypothesis I have in mind. The others which are opposing it directly. Another category could be something that presents like a third view, a completely different view, which pulls my research in a different tangent altogether. So categorizing different articles based on the direction in which it applies to my topic. That's one strategy I can think of.
Yeah, I immediately thought of metadata and tagging, which are all features in essentially all of those options I just provided. So if you were to digitize that strategy, you could certainly do that with any of those options. And that may serve you quite well based on that strategy, which is it's pretty profound depending on what topic you're interested in and what subtopic of that, right? That's a rabbit hole in itself, but I understand what you're getting at with I call it the metadata. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, Professor. So I just wanted to go by the bibliography that we're supposed to maintain. So if we have a topic in mind, so we'll maintain, uh, say the summary, evaluation, all those three columns for every topic. And then in the final column, we could like maintain links or store those papers that we find are related to that topic. So yeah, just maintaining a digital footprint of that and a tool like the ones mentioned here. I've seen something called Elicit AI, which also sort of deals with that. It maintains columns, and so I think that's how we can really use these tools to maintain our database.
Yeah, so I'm hearing a visual structure, so to speak, in order to classify and distinguish the data from each other. Again, another excellent way of doing that. And that is something that can also be digitized in any of the platforms that were previously discussed. With that, I would also caution with the use of AI for the annotated bibliography. The reason being is you want to ensure that you understand what was written in that before you write that annotated bibliography. If it were my recommendation, I would say read through it build out your own annotated bibliography, and then have AI help you streamline that process. Because what you don't want to have happen is as you go and build out that database and it gets very, very large, it can be exceedingly difficult to go back and search for something that you may or may not have read based off of the summary that was generated by the AI. So you want to ensure that you are at least reviewing that content. Again, just a little tip for success there. And I bring this up because I see this a lot in the annotated bibliographies where they're written very well, but then as the paper comes out, I wonder if they even reviewed what was in that annotated bibliography because there seems to be a mismatch. So again, little word of caution there. Anyone else? I'm surprised Excel has not come up. I usually get that one. That's usually the first one where they'll say, I have an Excel spreadsheet and I've got my formulas all drafted in there, and I've got even hyperlinks that take me right to the article itself. Okay, well then hopefully as you go through the options that are available, although I listed a few in the previous slide, those are not the only ones. There are many other options that are out there as well, just so long as you have some sort of methodology to get all of that information collected, aggregated, and then analyzed and be able to streamline your workflow. And that will help you immensely as you're starting to build that huge database of articles. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is leveraging AI in academic research. So AI is becoming an increasingly valuable tool in academic research, and it offers a wide range of functionality that can help streamline your work and enhance the quality of your output. And there's a few different ways that you can leverage AI effectively in that process. So one is AI tools can really help quickly sift through large volumes of academic papers and data to identify the most relevant sources. So this not only saves you time, but it also ensures that you don't miss critical literature in your field. I'm not saying that it reads it for you. I'm saying that it's able to do that initial dive. Think of it like the initial Google search. Instead of you randomly going out there and hoping for the best, AI can assist you with going out there and reading everything and then pulling out the ones that are pertinent to what it is that you are specifically seeking and wanting to read. So again, that's where this help comes in. AI can also analyze existing research to suggest new angles or introduce research questions that you may not have considered to begin with. And this can be particularly helpful in the early stages of your research. You just want to ensure that as these things are being suggested, that they align with your topic and they make sense and they follow the process, right? Because AI can certainly provide some excellent questions, but they may not be dissertation worthy, so to speak. So again, something to think about here. And then finally, AI tools can also assist with things we've already talked about, whether it's a grammar check, plagiarism check detection, even citation generation. And that's going to allow you to focus more on the content rather than the mechanics of writing. Of course, you already know that there's going to be a word of caution here, and that is to ensure that you are checking that work. You are verifying, you are validating, and that you are not losing your academic self or that rigor that's involved in that process. Because at the end of the day, you are responsible for what gets submitted, regardless of where it came from, right? So something to keep in mind when you use these particular tools. So I always want to throw that out there. And with that, I'd also like to put out there that I did say that there are a lot of AI tools that get generated and created every single day. If you know that there's one that's particularly helpful in any regard, I would encourage you to add that to the social forum, share it with others. Someone else may be able to see that and say, oh, that might be helpful for my own workflow, or have you considered this tool? This tool might really help in this regard, and that's, so something to think about. And I may be adding my own tools in there to help along with the process as we go through the course as well. And that is a wrap. So we've covered quite a bit so far. So we started with the introduction of the course and how it's all laid out and the dissertation process, at least at a high level, making sure that you understand the work that you'll be doing here and how that connects to the larger academic journey. We also reviewed the key resources that are available to you, including GAP. You have the library and the writing center. And then we turned our attention to the importance of building those strong annotated bibliographies, and that should form the foundation of your research. And then, of course, we also introduced the role of AI in academic research, focusing on policies and responsible use. So next, although we're a little early, and that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and take our early last comfort break. And then when we come back, we're going to move into the writing assessment. And that's going to give us a chance to, or you a chance really, to demonstrate your writing strengths in your areas where you may need a little bit more support. And that's going to set the stage for the rest of the course. So I'll talk more about that when we come back from a break. But for now, let's go ahead and take 10 minutes and I'll see everyone back here then.